Okay, hi you beautiful New Zealanders. Today we're going to be talking about how the government or Maori activists are trying to capture the minds of our nurses. You know, once it was real estate agents, then it was university students, then it was medical students, then it was law students, and now it's the nurses who are being targeted. So watch this. What's in today's video? I'm going to be explaining how all our nurses are shortly going to be subjected to heavy indoctrination and brainwashing. Number two, a serious attempt is being made to Maorify all our nurses. By this I mean they are being groomed to join in the Maori religion. Number four, I unpack a critically important saying which originally came from a left-wing, extreme left-wing American revolutionary organization in the 1960s. Their mantra was, the issue is never the issue is always the revolution. So I'm going to be looking at that and saying, how does that relate to what's happening to our nurses? And I give 6 reasons why this initiative to brainwash our nurses and other professions must be resisted strongly. And finally, I ask, where is Luxon? Why is he not stopping all this nonsense? Because that's what it is. And I give the answer, so watch. So first up, I'd encourage you to stop this video and read the source document on which this video is based. It's called the Registered Nurse Standards of Competence. So I'm just going to abbreviate this to RNSC from now on. I will have to put a link into it in the description of this video. Now, here's an interesting thing. An American academic by the name of COYNE has summarized this document. There's Jerry on the right. So I'll be summarizing Jerry's summary, if you like. I will also put Jerry's summary in the description of this video. Jerry labels these instructions to nurses as having come out of an asylum. This is somebody from outside New Zealand looking in, saying what is going on in New Zealand. And he thinks it's like a mental asylum. What's happening here? Honestly, it's serious. So shortly you'll see why he calls it an asylum. So here goes. So Jerry calls what's happening in New Zealand, likening it to an asylum. Yeah. The following is a quote from Jerry on the RNSC document. He says this: why this seems asylumish is because the standards are almost entirely directed to prioritizing and catering to the indigenous Maori population of the country, even though they are in a minority of the population, 16.5%, compared to Europeans, 70%, but also very close in numbers to Asians, 15.3%, with most of the remainder being Pacific Islanders, unquote. Well, just as a note for Jerry does not seem to realise that Maori are not Indigenous, but I'll let him get away with that and I can tell him about that. They never have been Indigenous and they never will be. That aside, Jerry makes a very good point. Really, these standards of competence are sowing the seeds of racism and apartheid. You imagine if the boot was on the other foot. Imagine if Europeans in New Zealand were getting privilege and advantage and were being pushed to the front of the queue and they were getting entitlements that nobody else was getting, that Maori weren't getting. Imagine the fuss that would be made. Come on. So let's get to the actual standards. It says the updated standards of competence require nurses to demonstrate kawa whakaruruhau, that's Maori cultural safety, by addressing what they call power imbalances in healthcare settings and working collaboratively with Maori to support equitable health outcomes. Well, what are we to make of this? What on earth does addressing power imbalances mean? Where are there power imbalances in the health system? Come on. Well, no one knows. In other words, it's absolutely nonsense what they're writing here. It's just a word salad, what it is. And you know what? They try and confuse people deliberately, so that we'll just give up and let them do what they want to do. That's how it works. Well, let's keep going with the standards. What about the RNCS? What it says about nurses must, quote, work collaboratively with Maori to support equitable health outcomes. And what does this mean? We need to know the meaning of the word equitable. Now, this is a little bit subtle, but we got to get this. Equitable means everyone achieving the same health outcomes. Equality is quite different from equity, so we just want you to get this. Equality means providing everyone with the same opportunity to be healthy. It's kind of like a level playing field. Now, is there any health facility or any health prescription or drug or anything that Maori can't access in New Zealand that everybody else can access? In other words, we have a level playing field when it comes to the health system in New Zealand. Maori are not deprived in any way whatsoever. Equality means everyone has the same access to healthcare and medications. Equity means nurses are responsible for the health outcomes of each Maori who they come across. Just think about that. What happens if Maori don't exercise regularly or eat good food? Or if they smoke, or if they live on fizzy drinks and alcohol, or if they don't follow the doctor's advice, or they don't take their medications. In other words, nurses are being made responsible for Maori health outcomes, which is just insanity. This is wrong. How do nurses stop their patients drinking fizzy drinks and alcohol and takeaways and smoking and drinking alcohol too much and so on. Well, this is wrong. Maori should be responsible for their own health outcomes, surely. Naturally, as we have seen, activists blame racism and colonialism for poor Maori health outcomes. They've got to blame somebody. Now, with these new standards, Maori will be able to blame the nurses. Here's a new excuse. My goodness. This too is wrong. You know that. You know what? There are other issues as well, not just the ones that I'm bringing up so far. What are those issues? Well, there are 160 cultures in New Zealand. Why are Maori being singled out, dominating these new healthcare standards for nurses? How come they're getting singled out? Don't all patients deserve the same level of healthcare? Isn't that true? Based on their need and not the colour of their skin? Yeah? So once again, these new standards are racist, spreading the seeds of apartheid. They are. You know what's amazing? New Zealand used to be a world leader in fighting against apartheid and racism. Now we're leading the charge, actually promoting it. We're such hypocrites. There's a photo of the Springbok tour protests in the 1970s. Look at that. Fighting against racism. Now we're the guys promoting it. Can you believe how hypocritical we are? Yep, that's what we are. We're great big hypocrites. You know what? There's more to this. The nursing competency document goes on to say, quote, they, the nurses, must also recognise the importance of that Maori word, that's building relationships, and that other Maori word, that's hospitality and respect, and fostering collective well-being. One of the most significant additions involves requiring nurses to, quote, describe the impact of colonisation and social determinants on health and well-being. Oh my goodness, what is that on about? Well, what are we to make of this? Firstly, it's a given that nurses build relationships with their patients. Come on, they've always done that. They always will do that, and they're really, really good at that. That's my experience. Second, it's a given that nurses are hospitable and respectful towards all their patients. They always have been and they always will be, and they value that. I know they do already. So this is just talking about stuff that already exists. So what's going on? So why give these standards Maori names? This hospitality and respect and this building relationships. See? They've slapped a Maori name on it when everybody's doing it already and everybody knows what they're doing. Well, this question gets to the heart of the issue with these standards. That's what it does. Maori want to dominate and control. That's what the issue is. This is what this whole document is about. Now, pay attention here, please, because this is a key issue. Maori want to dominate and take control of this country. Did you know that? Pre-1840, a key element of Maori life and culture was taking slaves, keeping slaves, and using slaves. Right? Slave masters want to dominate their slaves and control them. That's what a slave master does. That's a slave-master relationship. This is what we're seeing in this nursing standards document. Maori activists want to control the nurses. It's brainwashing and it's propaganda. That's what it is. Little by little, we're being sucked back into pre-1840 Maori living and culture. They want slaves. And the nursing standards document is grooming nurses for that very end. In other words, quote, life in New Zealand is all about Maori, the first-class citizens, the slave masters of the future, and nurses are being groomed for that end. That is what it is about. And you know what? This document goes on about Maori religion and its recruiting for Maori religion. Let me show you. COYNE goes on to say one of the most significant additions involves requiring nurses to, quote, describe the impact of colonisation and social determinants on health and well-being. Additionally, nurses must advocate for individuals and whānau by incorporating cultural, spiritual, physical, and mental health into whakapapa-centred care. That's care focused on family and ancestral connections. Oh my goodness. What do we make of this? This is recruiting nurses into the Maori religion. They want nurses to practice chants and prayers with their patients and also get involved in what they call ancestral connections. Well, what's that? That's connecting with the dead. This is dark stuff. This is a dark religious religion coming into our hospitals. And these poor, beautiful nurses are being pulled into it. Hard to believe this is happening, but this is third world, mate. And what about colonisation? As I have shown, nurses are required to, quote, describe the impact of colonisation and social determinants on health and well-being, unquote. Well, what would happen if you described all the positive impacts of colonisation, such as how the British set up hospitals, schools, roads, bridges, infrastructure, a modern police force to keep law and order, government, provided clothing and animals for Maori? What would happen if you gave all that as being the impact of colonisation? Well, I know the answer. The answer is you'd lose your job. You're not coming up with the right answers. We want negative stuff, they would say. You're not coming up with the right answers, the required answers. In other words, nurses are being told what to think, not how to think, which is a mark of brainwashing. If you want to know what brainwashing's all about, it's people telling you what to think, not how to think. And that's what's happening with this nursing document, truly. And you know what? This document for the nurses has got the treaty all the way through it. All of this and more, says the Registered Nurse Standards of Competence, is mandated in the treaty. So they say the answer to this, none of it's justified in the treaty. Absolutely none of it. In fact, the treaty only mandates equality for all, since all Maori became British subjects in Article 3 of the treaty. And when that happened, Maori became equal with all other citizens in this country. They were levelled. No two-tier society, no doing your own thing with your own government, no special privileges and no special entitlements. They were the same as everybody else, and they wanted that. So what's happened? Well, the treaty has become a genie for Maori activists. They just rub it and get whatever they want. It is now being used to justify anything and everything. And it's wrong, and we must resist this nonsense strongly. This makes it imperative that we must know this treaty. You know what? Because they've been getting away with it. They can say that the treaty says this and the treaty says that, and because we don't know the treaty, they've just got away with it. Nobody's challenged them. Nobody's pulled them up on this. See the problem? So we've got to really know this treaty so we can actually start opposing all this. So here are 6 reasons. Remember I said at the beginning I'd give you 6 reasons why nurses should say no to this claptrap that they're getting. So here are 6 reasons why nurses must say no strongly to these new competency standards. First of all, nurses must realise they're being recruited into the Maori religion. That is, this is compulsory Maorification, having to say Maori chants and prayers in their work. Number 2, nurses are being subjecting themselves to brainwashing, that is, being Maorified. Number 3, by complying, nurses are allowing themselves to be controlled and dominated, because that's what it's really all about. Number 4, nurses are being told what to think, not how to think, and that's brainwashing. Number 5, nurses are being threatened. If you don't do what we require, we have the option to terminate your employment. Now, that's not said in the document, but we know this is true. There's a lot of academics, there's a lot of people who are employed by the government and universities and AUTs and hospitals and police and everywhere else. And if you don't toe the line or, speak the narrative, what you're supposed to speak, then your job is on the block. That's the truth. So this is why this has got a long way along the road, is because people are afraid of losing their jobs by speaking out. That's the truth. Number 6, nurses will be held responsible for Maori health outcomes. Well, that's just asylum stuff, isn't it? That's just insanity, and they've called that equity. So, finally, I said in the introduction that I would unpack a critically important saying which originally came from an extreme left-wing American revolutionary organization in the 1960s. It was called Students for a Democratic Society. Their mantra was, the issue is never the issue is always the revolution. Now, my goodness, that really applies to what's happening with Maori in New Zealand right now. How does this relate to Maori activists today and our nurses? Well, the Registered Nurse Standards of Competence has nothing to do with health of Maori or anyone else. Did you know that? They portray this as the issue, but it's really not the issue. The real issue is Maori being in full control of New Zealand by 2040. If you don't believe me that Maori are gunning for total control of the country by 2040, then listen to this. It's Maori leader Hone Harawira just coming right out and saying it before last month's Hikoi to Wellington. Remember that? He says, we'll keep marching until we get our sovereignty. Well, it doesn't get any clearer than that. Watch.
United in their cause. Flags flying high with a long journey ahead. Daylight struggling to cut through, but those gathered here hope their future will be much clearer.
This Hiko is just a platform for more, for better, for a journey well beyond Parliament.
To send a signal to the whole world that we will keep marching until we get our sovereignty.
Our nurses are just being used as pawns, a target group to be recruited into the Maori revolutionary cause. Even Dr. Jerry COYNE had not clicked onto this, but that's what's happening here. See? That's what's going on. The issue is never the issue. The issue is always the revolution. And we need to wake up to this in New Zealand, because just about every single thing that Maori activists do relates to that little mantra. So my final question is this as we wrap this up. Where is Luxon? Where is he in all this? The answer is, behind the scenes, he's actually driving this. Yeah? It's well within his power and scope to stop all this, but he doesn't. Remember that? He didn't even want to help David Seymour with his bill. David Seymour's bill was just so amazingly simple. But Luxon said, no, I don't want any of that. Why? The answer is because Luxon is an activist. That's it. He's an activist. Look at that. He's an activist. What he is. Alright, that's enough for today's video. Thank you. Don't forget to keep our business cards, getting them out. They're really making a difference. You can get the cards from that web address there. They're only 3 cents each plus courier to get them to you. Don't forget also to please get some of these little booklets, The Psychology of Takeover. They're 80 pages long and they're only $3. How's that? If you truly want to understand what's going on in New Zealand, this book is the key which will truly help you get it, if you know what I mean. You can order this book by emailing the same email address. Please also don't forget we've got a few thousand of these beautiful little booklets left over. We printed 550,000 of those last year. We got to about a third of the houses in New Zealand. They're now free. So if you want some of these and you want to start giving a few out around your streets, because a lot of people didn't get them and it's no harm in them getting it twice, you can order this book by emailing the same email address. Alright, and now we've got our latest bumper sticker, which is fantastic. New Zealand's identity is under threat. First, the activists have and are still trying to change the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa. We must oppose this. Second, Maori sovereignty flags are appearing more and more, so we have printed some awesome bumper stickers and there they are. Now they measure 21 centimeters by 6.5 centimeters. They're $3 plus courier and packaging to get them to you, so they're very cheap. You can order these bumper stickers by emailing the same email address. That's that one there. As usual, please like, comment, subscribe and share this video. Thank you so much for those who are chipping in financially. This is a huge help to us. You guys are absolutely awesome. We're a big team trying to overcome a great tsunami that's come onto our country of darkness. So let's fight together. Get the videos out to everybody. Subscribe if you haven't already subscribed to our video channel. That's how you can help us. Alright, see you next time.